Welcome to another segment of ACRP TV. Today, our spotlight is on something very special. It's a segment we're calling I'm Alive Because of a Clinical Trial. So these are matters of life and death. It doesn't get much more serious or frankly inspiring for the clinical trial industry. We have a very special guest with us today, Janine Jones, who's the Senior Product Manager with Bioclinica. Janine, thank you so much for joining us, first off.
Thank you.
Now, you and I talked the other day, but I want you to share your story with our listening audience. This is an inspiring story. Starts off kind of scary. I won't give too much away. There's a happy ending, but tell us your harrowing story, if you will.
Yes, the happy ending is I'm still here. I was a competitive athlete, CrossFit athlete at the time of when my life changed. I was eating right, doing everything right to be the best competitive athlete that I could be. But I'd had a cough for about 4 weeks and I couldn't get rid of it. I thought, it's probably just allergies because I'm a pediatric nurse by trade. And nurses make the worst patients. So that was me. But my wife said, this cough is concerning. I think you need to get it checked out. Whatever. Well, after one of my particularly difficult CrossFit workouts, I just hit the deck. I just didn't feel good. I felt like I had a fever. And so at that point, I thought, okay, it's time to go to the doctor. And also I was slowly starting to not perform well in my workouts. So that was another indicator to me something just wasn't right. So I went to the doctor and she did a chest x-ray. And on the chest x-ray was a grapefruit sized white circle. And she alluded to the fact that it was a tumor. And to me at the time, I didn't have, the furthest thing from my mind was cancer. So she said, well, you're going to need to go for a CT scan and probably a fine needle biopsy after that. So that's what happened. CT scan, needle biopsy, and it turned out to be non-Hodgkins lymphoma. And the oncologist at the time said that the tumor had probably grown within the time span of about 6 weeks. Now, this didn't run in my family. I had no idea anything about cancer because, again, I'm a pediatric nurse. So when they said non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I wasn't even sure what that was. So I had a lot to learn. But they said, this is very serious. It has grown very quickly. We need to get you into the hospital as soon as possible. So went in, had a terrific oncologist. He came in, he sat down. He explained what it was. And he says, I come to you today with 3 different forms of treatment, all proven to work in clinical trials. So he actually gave me, and actually have the original clinical trial printout right here about it's from the New England Journal of Medicine. And it was actually published the year before I was diagnosed. And this particular chemotherapy and radiation regimen for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma had a 95% chance of complete cure. So I said, I'll take that one. Of course, I looked at the other clinical trials, but this one had the best outcome.
So let's back up one second. When you and I talked yesterday, you mentioned that when you talked to the doctor and you said, when you were in that appointment and you said, if I don't get treated, how much time do I have? What did he say?
Yes. I was very curious because I think there's part of me that just wanted to know how serious this really was. And he said, if you didn't have any treatment, you would have about 2 weeks to live. But by the time 2 weeks would have passed, I probably would have ended up having a stroke, or ending up with trouble breathing. And by that time, it would have been too late. So I am very fortunate to be here. And that's why I tell everybody, when I tell my story, I say, I am alive because of a clinical trial, because, it's here in the paper. And this is the exact regimen that I did. So would I still be here, or would I have had as good of an outcome had this clinical trial not be done? I don't know. And I'm glad I don't know.
Right. And then, of course, now you're in the industry. Talk about what this industry means to you, why you've been in it for so long.
Oh, it means everything. So I told you I was a pediatric nurse, and I was in patient safety for many, many years, and I wanted a change. And I had a friend that was in the clinical trial software industry, and he said, "Hey, you want to come over? We've got an opening." So I jumped at the chance because I love working with software, and just to play a small part with clinical trials, with where the data sits and how the sponsors interact with it on our software, means the world to me. And especially when I see studies come through about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it always makes me smile, and it makes me extremely happy just to be that small part. Yeah.
It's an amazing story. Now, let me ask you, for somebody who's thinking about going into the clinical trial industry, until COVID came along in recent memory, most people didn't know much about clinical trials. It's obviously because of COVID been on the front pages a lot this year and last year. So more people know about it than used to. Limited knowledge probably, but what would you say to somebody who's considering it either entry level or maybe someone considering a career shift? I mean, you obviously think it's a pretty rewarding career.
Yes, absolutely. I do. If I hadn't had cancer, it would still be extremely thrilling, because we are able to see, we know what particular, via the protocol, what drugs on which the sponsor is working. And to be able to see that go to market and make such a difference in people's lives, and to know, hey, I know about that. Can't say anything, of course, but I know about that. And that, I played a part where that data sat, I played a part with that software. It's really thrilling to be a part of an industry that's improving the lives of human health and healthcare around the world. It's extremely rewarding.
It's obviously an amazing opportunity to be part of something bigger than yourself. And
Absolutely.
I can't think of a much higher calling in this industry. I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
This has been a very inspiring story, our ACRP TV spotlight on I'm Alive because of a clinical trial. We've been speaking with Janine Jones, Senior Product Manager with Bioclinica. Janine, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.